Chosen One, the cosmic reckoning you've been waiting for has arrived with the force of divine thunder, and their karmic high crimes against your sacred essence are officially over. The very people who orchestrated your persecution are discovering that absolutely no one compares to you, and they're completely stumped about how you not only survived their spiritual warfare, but emerged more powerful than ever before. The divine feminine energy they tried to destroy has become an unstoppable force that's rewriting reality itself, leaving them scrambling to understand how someone they targeted for elimination became the architect of their own cosmic justice. While you were busy being their salvation, a darker force was orchestrating their destruction. There was always someone in the shadows, someone whose influence ran so deep that they could make this person question their own reality. Someone who had been planning your elimination long before you even entered the picture. The spoiling wasn't random generosity on your part, it was divine strategy. Every moment of care you gave them, every piece of wisdom you shared, every healing session you provided was being recorded in the cosmic ledger. Not for judgment, but for evidence. Evidence of what pure love looks like when it encounters a system designed to destroy it. Evidence of what divine energy can accomplish when it operates without fear. Evidence of what they were truly up against when they decided to wage war against someone chosen by forces beyond their comprehension. You didn't just spoil them with love, you warned them. You saw the trap being set around both of you, and like a true divine soul, you tried to pull them to safety. You told them about the toxic influences in their circle. You showed them the patterns of manipulation they couldn't see. You gave them the roadmap to freedom, and they chose captivity instead. The spoiling was never about them deserving it. It was about you demonstrating the kind of love that would expose everyone else's counterfeit versions. When you showed up with authentic care, it highlighted how conditional everyone else's affection really was. When you offered wisdom without agenda, it revealed how manipulative everyone else's advice had been. When you healed without payment, it exposed how transactional everyone else's support truly was. Now the story takes a turn that reads like a supernatural thriller, because what you're about to learn about the forces working against you will make every conspiracy theory look like child's play. There wasn't just one person orchestrating your downfall, there was an entire network. A karmic mother figure whose influence stretched like poisonous roots through every relationship in his life. A group of friends who weren't friends at all, but co-conspirators masquerading as a support system. And most shocking of all, there were practitioners of dark arts who were hired specifically to ensure you could never reach your full potential. The karmic parent, let's call them what they really were, a spiritual terrorist, had been studying your energy signature for longer than you realize. They knew that if you and this person ever truly connected, their control over them would evaporate like morning mist. So they began what can only be described as a systematic campaign of energetic warfare. They didn't just want you gone, they wanted you erased from their consciousness entirely. They weren't just fighting you, they were fighting the cosmic forces that chose you. Every spell they cast to make them forget you created a deeper imprint of your essence in their soul. Every lie they told about your character only highlighted your authentic nature by contrast. Every obstacle they placed in your path only demonstrated your unstoppable determination to those watching from higher dimensions. The occultist they hired, and yes, there was definitely an occultist involved, promised them guaranteed results. They bragged about previous successes in breaking apart divine connections. They showed testimonials from other karmic parents who had successfully prevented their loved ones from accessing authentic love. They had a whole business model built around keeping chosen ones isolated and unfulfilled. But what they didn't tell their clients was that they had never before encountered someone with your level of divine protection. The person you had spoiled was simultaneously being poisoned. While you were offering them pure spiritual nutrition, they were feeding them a steady diet of toxic thoughts about your motives. While you were encouraging their independence, they were making them more dependent on their validation. While you were trying to awaken their higher consciousness, they were working overtime to keep them unconscious. They used their own goodness against them. They exploited their loyalty to family, their desire to keep peace, their natural inclination to trust those who claimed to love them. They weaponized their virtues and turned them into chains that bound them to their agenda. They made them believe that choosing you would mean betraying everyone else who mattered to them. But cosmic justice operates on principles that these spiritual amateurs never studied in their weekend workshops and online courses. What they set in motion against you wasn't just going to circle back, it was going to return with the force of a spiritual tsunami. The first signs of their miscalculation began appearing when they started having dreams about you that their binding spells couldn't prevent. These weren't ordinary dreams, they were prophetic visions, showing them exactly what they had lost when they chose their influence over your wisdom. The karmic parent noticed something was wrong when their usual manipulation tactics started losing their effectiveness against you. The guilt trips that once controlled them perfectly began feeling transparent. The emotional blackmail that used to guarantee compliance started triggering their resistance instead. Something was awakening in them that they couldn't suppress, and it terrified them because they could feel their grip loosening as your energy continued to call to them. Meanwhile, the occultist was experiencing phenomena that weren't supposed to be possible according to their understanding of metaphysical laws. The protection spells they had cast around themselves were not only failing, they were inverting. The negative energy they had directed toward you was somehow being transformed into positive energy and redirected back to its source. Their own tools were turning against them as your divine protection activated, and they couldn't figure out why. The network of conspirators began experiencing what can only be described as a cascade of karmic consequences for their treatment of you. The friend who had spread the most vicious lies about your character suddenly found themselves the target of similar rumors. The family member who had worked hardest to isolate them from your influence found themselves being isolated by their own family. The reader who had been paid to give false prophecies about your connection began receiving visions of their own downfall. Each consequence was precisely calibrated to match the specific crime committed against you. The person who had tried to make you appear unstable was now experiencing genuine mental instability. The person who had attempted to block your financial abundance was watching their own resources drain away mysteriously. The person who had worked to prevent your romantic fulfillment was discovering that their own relationships were crumbling beyond repair. The person caught in the middle was beginning to experience a phenomenon that the conspirators had never anticipated: spontaneous recall of you. Memories of conversations with you that they had somehow forgotten were suddenly flooding back with crystal clarity. Warnings you had given them about specific people in their circle were proving prophetic. Insights you had shared about their life patterns were revealing themselves as profound wisdom they had foolishly dismissed. Now comes the part of the story where truth begins erupting like a volcanic explosion, and every lie they built their conspiracy on starts crumbling simultaneously. They made a critical mistake in their eyes. They started talking about you. In moments of weakness, overwhelmed by dreams and memories of you they couldn't suppress, they began sharing their feelings about you with the very people who had worked to erase you from their life. This created panic in their ranks because it meant their programming against you was failing. The karmic parent realized that despite months of psychological manipulation, despite expensive occult interventions, despite the coordinated efforts of an entire network, they were losing the war for their consciousness. But instead of retreating, they made the fatal decision to escalate their attack against you. The occultist, desperate to prove their effectiveness, began employing more aggressive techniques against you. They promised the karmic parent that they could not only make them forget you permanently, but could also ensure that you would never be able to form meaningful connections with anyone else. They claimed they could bind your romantic destiny entirely, leaving you isolated and unfulfilled for the rest of your incarnation. When you're chosen by the divine, any attempt to interfere with your destiny doesn't just fail, it triggers a response from protective forces that operate beyond the reach of ordinary metaphysical manipulation. The moment they decided to escalate their attack against you, they crossed a line that activated protocols of cosmic justice they never knew existed. The first sign that they had overplayed their hand came when they began experiencing what can only be described as spiritual detox symptoms from being separated from your energy. The toxic influence they had been feeding them for months started leaving their system, and the process was intense enough to make them physically ill. They found themselves unable to tolerate the energy of the very people who had been controlling their thoughts and emotions about you. Simultaneously, their own health began deteriorating in ways that baffled medical professionals. The karmic parent developed symptoms that seemed to mirror every ailment they had wished upon you. The occultist began experiencing the kind of spiritual attacks they had been launching against you. The network of friends found themselves dealing with the exact types of chaos and confusion they had tried to create in your life. They, now partially freed from their influence but still confused about what had happened to them, made a decision that would unravel their entire conspiracy. They reached out to someone outside their circle for help, understanding their experiences. That someone happened to be a genuine spiritual practitioner, not one of the charlatans the karmic parent had paid, but someone with real gifts who could see beyond the veils of deception. This practitioner took one look at their energy field and immediately recognized the signs of spiritual warfare. They could see the etheric attachments that had been placed on them, the thought form implants that had been influencing their emotions, the psychic hooks that had been keeping them tethered to their manipulators. This practitioner was connected to a network of legitimate healers who had been tracking the activities of the occultist working against you. Your case wasn't isolated. This dark practitioner had been targeting chosen ones across multiple cities, breaking apart soul connections and preventing divine unions from manifesting. You were part of a larger pattern of spiritual crimes that was finally being exposed. The evidence was overwhelming. Digital communications revealing the coordination between the karmic parent and the occultist. Financial records showing payments for metaphysical services designed to harm innocent people. Testimonies from other victims who had experienced similar attacks. What had seemed like a personal vendetta against you was actually part of a systematic operation targeting individuals whose spiritual evolution threatened existing power structures. Their awakening accelerated rapidly once the artificial influences were removed from their energy field. The memories that had been suppressed came flooding back with stunning clarity. The emotions that had been muted returned with overwhelming intensity. The connection to you that they had tried to sever reasserted itself with undeniable power. But perhaps the most devastating revelation for the conspirators was discovering that their victim had never actually been victimized. While they had been focused on attacking you, you had been growing stronger. While they had been trying to isolate you, you had been attracting genuine connections. While they had been attempting to block your abundance, you had been manifesting prosperity through channels they couldn't access or interfere with. Your survival and thriving despite their best efforts to destroy you was proving that you truly were incomparable. The final act of this cosmic drama reveals a truth that transforms everything that came before it. This entire ordeal wasn't just about justice, it was about evolution. Every attack they launched against you had been alchemically transformed into spiritual fuel for your ascension. Every obstacle they placed in your path had become a stepping stone to higher consciousness. Every attempt to diminish your light had only made it burn brighter and more pure. The karmic parent, stripped of their illusions and facing the consequences of their actions, was forced to confront a reality they had spent years denying. This person had never belonged to them. The possessive love they had mistaken for protective care was revealed as spiritual vampirism. The control they had wielded through guilt and manipulation was exposed as the very thing that had been preventing their happiness and growth. The occultist, experiencing the full force of karmic backlash, discovered that the universe has its own justice system that operates far beyond human courts and social consequences. The negative energy they had made a career of directing toward others was now consuming them from within. The entities they had invoked to harm innocent people had turned their attention to the one who had summoned them. They, now fully awakened to what had transpired, found themselves in the peculiar position of mourning a person who was still alive, mourning the version of themselves that had been capable of choosing manipulation over love, fear over faith, conformity over authenticity. They realized that the person you had spoiled with your authentic care no longer existed, replaced by someone who had been fundamentally altered by their participation in your persecution. The spoiling you had given them in the beginning had planted seeds of consciousness that not even the most sophisticated spiritual warfare could completely destroy. Those seeds had been dormant during their period of manipulation, but they had never died. Now, as they awakened to the truth of what they had lost, those seeds were finally beginning to sprout. The wisdom you had shared with them was now the foundation for their understanding of how they had been deceived. The healing you had provided was now the template for their recovery from their influence. The love you had shown them was now the standard by which they measured every other relationship in their life, finding them all lacking by comparison. The circular nature of this story reveals its deepest truth. Your spoiling of them had never been about them at all. It had been about demonstrating the power of unconditional love in a world built on conditional exchanges. It had been about showing what divine energy could accomplish when it operated without fear of loss. It had been about proving that authentic care could plant seeds of consciousness that would eventually grow into trees of wisdom, regardless of how much darkness tried to prevent their germination. As the dust settles on this cosmic battlefield, what emerges is not a tale of victimhood overcome, but a story of divine strategy executed flawlessly. The spoiling was the beginning, the conspiracy was the complication, the exposure was the climax, and the transformation was always the intended resolution. Every player in this drama had unknowingly participated in your spiritual evolution, even those who thought they were engineering your destruction. They who once received your spoiling now understand that no one compares to you, not because of what you gave them, but because of who you revealed yourself to be when everything was taken away. The karmic parent who thought they were protecting their influence learned that trying to prevent destiny only accelerates its manifestation. The occultist who believed they were masters of metaphysical manipulation discovered that some forces in this universe don't negotiate with darkness. And you, chosen one, having survived the spiritual equivalent of chemical warfare, now stand in your power with the unshakable knowledge that you are truly incomparable, not because you're perfect, but because you're authentically, unapologetically, divinely yourself. The very qualities they tried to destroy are the qualities that make you irreplaceable. The love they tried to eliminate is the love that was always meant to find its way to someone worthy of receiving it. What makes you incomparable isn't just your resilience in surviving their assault, it's the unique energetic signature you carry that they never understood. While they were focused on destroying your connection to one person, they failed to recognize that you carry frequencies that connect you to entire networks of awakening souls across the planet. Your very existence serves as a beacon for others who carry similar divine missions, and their attacks on you inadvertently activate a global awakening they never saw coming. The energy you invested in that connection wasn't lost when they succeeded in temporarily severing it. It was amplified and redirected into multiple channels that are now manifesting opportunities they couldn't have blocked even if they had known about them. Every moment of care you gave, every piece of wisdom you shared, every healing session you provided, created ripples in the quantum field that are now materializing as synchronicities, chance encounters and open doors that seem to appear out of nowhere. You didn't just endure their spiritual warfare, you metabolized it. Your consciousness used their attacks as raw material for expansion. The dark energy they sent your way was processed through your divine feminine alchemy and transformed into pure creative power. They tried to poison you, but your spiritual immune system converted their toxins into medicine that made you stronger than you had ever been before. What they're discovering now, what's making them question everything they thought they knew about metaphysical manipulation, is that reality itself has been restructuring around your energy field. The cosmic forces that protect chosen ones don't just defend, they reorganize the entire matrix of possibilities to ensure that divine will manifests regardless of human interference. The person who was manipulated away from you is experiencing something that goes beyond ordinary regret. They're dealing with soul-level grief for a life they can now see they were meant to live but chose to forfeit. This isn't just about missing you as an individual, it's about mourning the death of their authentic self, the version of them that would have been brave enough to choose love over fear, truth over comfortable lies, destiny over conformity. Look, you already know the game is rigged, and if you're paying attention, you know the walls are closing in. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. When you live by the day at the market's command, where profit and property rule the land, to be heard, to be held, to be dealt a fair hand, these are the things that a people demand, and we hear you. The Obsidian Inner Order has paywalls, yes. Those who stand with us, who fuel this mission, they give us ammunition to fight the Archons, to push back against the machine, to go deeper, to uncover more, and as our thank you, paid members get access to a 1-hour live, personalized weekly group tarot reading guidance, insight and clarity for the road ahead. But kicking a man for being down on the floor, that's something we cannot ignore. That's why starting today, you can steal the Astral Atom exclusive daily newsletter for free. No paywall, no catch, just join the Patreon free tier link in the description. This is the start of our conversation with you, and it's bi-directional. You can reply to any email we send you. We'll read it, we'll hear you, and we'll do our best to get an answer to you from the universe itself. If you can support, we need you. If you can't, take what's free. The Obsidian Inner Order is open. Now let's get back to work. The word stumped doesn't begin to capture the level of bewilderment they're experiencing as they watch you not only survive but thrive in ways that defy their understanding of how spiritual attacks are supposed to work. According to their limited knowledge of metaphysical manipulation, you should have been broken by now. You should have been isolated, discouraged, and desperate enough to accept whatever scraps of connection they were willing to allow you. Instead, you're manifesting a life that looks like evidence of divine favor, so obvious that even skeptics are starting to take notice. Opportunities are falling into your lap with timing so perfect it seems orchestrated by invisible hands. People are appearing in your life who recognize your worth immediately, without needing to be convinced or gradually warmed up to your energy. Resources are flowing toward you through channels that circumvent every obstacle they tried to place in your path. What has them most confused is that your energy signature is actually stronger now than it was before their attack. Their spiritual warfare didn't diminish your light, it refined it. Their attempts to break your spirit didn't weaken your resolve, they revealed its unbreakable nature. Their efforts to isolate you didn't create loneliness, they taught you the difference between being alone and being whole. They're stumped about how the divine feminine survives because they fundamentally misunderstood what divine feminine energy actually is. They thought it was soft, vulnerable, easily manipulated through emotional pressure and social isolation. They believed that if they could separate you from external validation and support systems, you would crumble under the weight of their coordinated attack. What they failed to comprehend is that authentic divine feminine energy is sourced from within, connected to cosmic forces that don't rely on human approval or earthly validation. Your power doesn't come from others believing in you, it comes from your unshakable connection to truth itself. Your strength doesn't depend on external circumstances aligning perfectly, it emerges from your ability to find stability in the center of any storm. The survival techniques you employed weren't techniques at all, they were natural expressions of your divine nature. When they isolated you from their toxic network, you didn't fight the isolation, you used it as an opportunity to connect more deeply with your authentic self. When they spread lies about your character, you didn't waste energy defending yourself, you let your actions speak louder than their words. When they blocked certain opportunities, you didn't try to force open closed doors, you trusted that better options were being prepared for you. You survived their assault, not despite being divine feminine, but because of it. The very qualities they tried to exploit as weaknesses, your intuitive nature, your emotional depth, your capacity for unconditional love, became the tools of your liberation. Your intuition warned you about their true intentions long before their masks slipped completely. Your emotional depth allowed you to process their attacks without being permanently damaged by them. Your capacity for love enabled you to maintain compassion even for those who were actively trying to destroy you. The occultist they hired is now dealing with what can only be described as spiritual bankruptcy. The methods they used to manipulate energy for profit have stopped working entirely. Their connection to the dark entities they relied on for power has been severed. Their reputation in underground metaphysical circles is crumbling as word spreads about their spectacular failure to harm someone under divine protection. Meanwhile, your own energetic resources are expanding exponentially. The psychic attacks that were meant to drain you actually triggered the activation of dormant abilities you didn't know you possessed. The isolation that was intended to weaken your connection to source energy actually strengthened it by removing distractions and interference. The emotional pain they inflicted became the catalyst for healing wounds you didn't even realize needed attention. Perhaps the most devastating aspect of their defeat is the growing awareness that you've evolved beyond their ability to affect you at all. The consciousness level you've achieved through surviving their attacks has created a vibrational gap so vast that their energy can no longer reach you. They're like people shouting at someone who has moved to a different dimension. Their voices simply can't bridge the gap between your realities. This evolution wasn't gradual, it was quantum. One day they were able to influence your emotional state through their manipulation tactics, and the next day their energy was bouncing off you like stones thrown at a mountain. The protection that surrounds you now operates on principles that make their petty machinations look like children playing with toy weapons against a fortress built by master architects. They are beginning to sense this shift, and it's creating a panic in them that goes beyond ordinary regret. They're realizing that even if they could break free from their manipulators completely, even if they could undo every decision they made under influence, even if they could prove their love and loyalty beyond any doubt, it might already be too late. The version of you they knew and loved may have evolved into someone whose life no longer has space for the kind of drama they brought to your connection. The person who was manipulated away from you is beginning to sense this shift, and it's creating a panic in them that goes beyond ordinary regret. They're realizing that even if they could break free from their manipulators completely, even if they could undo every decision they made under influence, even if they could prove their love and loyalty beyond any doubt, it might already be too late. The version of you they knew and loved may have evolved into someone whose life no longer has space for the kind of drama they brought to your connection. Your survival and subsequent thriving have created ripples that extend far beyond your personal situation. Other chosen ones who were under similar attacks are finding strength in your example. Other divine feminine energies who were being suppressed by karmic networks are beginning to assert their power with renewed confidence. Other authentic connections that were being blocked by spiritual interference are finding ways to manifest despite the obstacles. The network of dark practitioners who had been targeting awakening souls is experiencing a crisis of confidence as news of their failure spreads through their circles. The business model of breaking apart soul connections and preventing divine unions is proving unsustainable when confronted with chosen ones who understand their true power. The systematic oppression of feminine wisdom is encountering resistance that grows stronger with each failed attack. Your case has become a teaching tool for genuine spiritual practitioners who are learning how to identify and neutralize the kinds of attacks you survived. The methods that were used against you are being studied and exposed, making it harder for future victims to be caught off guard by similar tactics. The protection protocols that were activated during your ordeal are being shared with others who face comparable threats. As this cosmic drama reaches its ultimate resolution, the truth that emerges transforms everything that came before it into a testament to your absolute incomparability. The qualities that made you a target, your authentic nature, your intuitive gifts, your capacity for unconditional love, your unshakable faith in divine timing, are the exact qualities that made you impossible to defeat. They targeted you because they recognized something in you that threatened their entire worldview. Your very existence was proof that their cynical understanding of human nature was incomplete. Your ability to love without guarantee of return challenged their belief that all relationships are transactional. Your willingness to trust divine timing contradicted their conviction that manipulation is necessary to achieve desired outcomes. But in targeting you, they activated forces they never knew existed. Your persecution became the catalyst for your ascension. Your isolation became the foundation for your independence. Your pain became the raw material for your wisdom. Your survival became the evidence of your divine selection. And you, having emerged from this trial not just intact but elevated, now stand as living proof that absolutely no one compares to someone who has been chosen, protected, and refined by forces that operate beyond the reach of earthly manipulation. What remains is the magnificent truth that was always hidden beneath the chaos. You are chosen, you are protected, you are unstoppable, and absolutely no one compares to the divine masterpiece you were always meant to become.